tonight on this edition of Southern Newsweek. New Zealand's Ice Ferns hockey team returned triumphantly. A long-standing Dunedin wholesaler has major expansion plans. And Otago Museum has received an impressive gift, hundreds of parasites. Hello, I'm Anastasia Munzer. A sellout crowd of over 3,500 students descended on Hyde Street over the weekend for the annual Hyde Street Keg Party. It's one of the main events on the social calendar for Otago University students, with police reporting only 3 arrests.
Rather sedate scenes at this year's annual Hyde Street Keg Party, despite a sellout crowd of over 3,500 people. The event attracted plenty of bad press over the years and is now under the control of the Otago University Students Association.
For us, it's a big thing that, our students are having fun, but also they're safe while they're doing it. That's why we're working alongside police, 50 plus security guards, St John, fire service, Red Frogs and the Know Your Stuff services.
The party officially began at 9 AM on Saturday, although residents of Country Calendar at number 15 Hyde Street were woken a lot earlier.
Oh my goodness, it would have been pretty early. I woke up at like 5 AM, but it was easily going for that.
This is his first year living in Hyde Street, but his second annual keg party.
We actually weren't too fussed. We were just looking at good flats, and this one showed up, and we thought Hyde Street was a bonus, really awesome experience.
Manning's already put his degree to work, securing sponsorship for the party from a local company.
Well, we're basically given a little bit of autonomy as to what we do with our flat, so in terms of decorations and stuff like that. So we reached out to small businesses and we got a sponsorship from a vaping company. And we basically just, they sent us some product, we put some posters, and now with a vape flat.
An army of volunteers were staffing free food and water stands, residents and the OUSA joining forces to clean up the street yesterday, in Dunedin, the south today.
Dunedin's Cairns Catering Supplies is set to embark on a multi-million-dollar expansion program. The business is set to expand its footprint threefold and increase its workforce.
From a modest 1960s Brockville general grocery shop to one of the largest independent food distributors in the South Island, Cairns Catering Supplies in Dunedin is embarking on an expansion program costing more than $10 million.
In the 60s, that was my mum and dad that started in a shop in Brockville and Hanover Street, and then we had in the later in the years we had a fish and chip shop in Sawyers Bay. And then from then we moved into town and started up Cairns Catering Supplies.
They started out making sandwiches and burgers for truckies at 6 AM and worked through to the evening, the children helping make up and fold the pay packets at the end of the week. Now the business is set to expand its footprint from 4,000 to 12,000 square metres, redeveloping and land banking a series of warehouses on each side of Kitchener Street.
Expansion plans here is just to continue with the growth that we've still got and then continuing to have. And we've just really outgrown our site probably a wee while ago, so we've found this site and it's a great opportunity for us and to grow for the next future and for the next generations.
Cairns is also set to expand its workforce to about 200, with its 95 vehicles delivering 4,000 different product lines to customers almost every day.
It's a big investment for us, but it's to bring us into the future and future-proof us for the next few years to come forward.
Cairns says the business is very much a family affair.
All of our families are actively involved and we're trying to bring our young kids back into it a bit too, getting them involved.
The company expects the current annual $80 million turnover to grow to $100 million within the next 18 to 24 months. In Dunedin, the south today.
Researchers have donated several hundred parasitic worm specimens to the Otago Museum, many of them from the Dunedin Wildlife Hospital. The preserved specimens from more than 60 known species of parasites were given by members of Otago University's Evolutionary and Ecological Parasitology group.
Getting up close and personal with parasites. Over the past year, Bronwyn Presswell has worked with Jerusha Bennett to collect and curate parasites from more than 200 dead birds.
What we ended up with was a collection of over 200 items of parasites. Whether they were in ethanol or whether they were made into slides, of many of which are unknown to science, many of which are certainly not recorded for New Zealand before.
The members of Otago University's Evolutionary and Ecological Parasitology group have donated several hundred of the parasitic worm specimens to the Otago Museum.
So this is undoubtedly the biggest parasite collection that's been put together in one hit in New Zealand. And I hope it will be retained in posterity for people to use, for researchers to use in the future.
Many of the dead birds were provided by the Wildlife Hospital. The researchers say parasites form a big part of the region's biodiversity and we can't afford to overlook them.
If every animal on Earth has got at least one parasite, then that means that parasites probably make up at least 50% of the world's species.
Among the more startling discoveries is a 10-centimetre long hairworm that invades its insect host and compels it to commit suicide by drowning itself, and a tapeworm so large it can exceed the weight of its fish host. Plus, they also get to name the new discoveries.
Because I did a worm that had spines on its head and they were all sticking out in different directions, and I called it the Greek version of Bad Hair Day.
The museum says it holds a significant collection of parasitic worms and are excited by the gift. In Dunedin, the South today.
3 Queenstown ice hockey players have proven crucial in helping the New Zealand women's team claim silver at the International Ice Hockey Federation tournament in Romania. The Ice Ferns went head-to-head with teams from Chinese Taipei, Romania, Turkey, Iceland and Croatia during a recent competition.
Back home in Queenstown after a whirlwind tournament in Romania, members of the New Zealand Ice Ferns hockey team arriving back in the resort after claiming silver at the recent International Ice Hockey Federation tournament.
Given the circumstances, and we really came together as a team and played really well, and I think we're all very proud that we took silver.
In their final match, the side crushed Croatia 5-2, but they had to wait for the outcome of the Chinese Taipei versus Iceland game to find out the colour of their medal. Team manager Kathy Gay says she couldn't be prouder of how the team performed.
This year we got silver, and I'm sure that we could have got gold, and plan to try again in 2020.
Australia moved from her comfort zone as goalie to play defence throughout the tournament, a switch she embraced and one that paid off for the team.
It was fun. It was really, it was hard at first learning, a completely new position, learning the ins and outs, but, I've been playing in social leagues as a defense for a little bit now, so it was my first, proper game. But it was cool. It was cool to see the game from a different perspective.
The side is already eyeing gold next year and winning promotion to the 2A division. In Queenstown, the South today.
Still to come on this edition of Southern News Week, we catch up with a former political party leader who is expressing her creative side, and visit a mobile aquarium with many fishy tales to tell. See you after the break. Welcome back. Former Green Party co-leader Metiria Tude has spent her time since leaving Parliament following creative pursuits. She's currently studying for an honours degree in fine arts while also working at the University of Otago. And she gave a talk about her recent artistic endeavours to the Dunedin Public Art Gallery Society.
A far cry from walking the halls of Parliament, former politician and now artist Metiria Tude says her work is based around the idea of people of colour in space.
It comes from this idea from a guy called Dan Taipua in Auckland about the Austronesian, Polynesians navigating space, like we used to navigate Moana Nui a Kiwa, and what it means for a self-determining future.
Tude presented some of her work to an audience at the Dunedin Public Art Gallery this morning. It's a much more relaxed environment compared with her days in the House.
Supplementary question, Metiria Tude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is the Prime Minister basing his assumptions about home affordability on his own personal experience of owning several properties offshore? And doesn't that show how staggeringly out of touch he is with young Kiwi families trying to buy a modest 3-bedroom home in Auckland? Staggeringly out of touch.
But she says talking about her art is tougher than giving political speeches.
Oh, it's much scarier to speak about my art than it is about politics, funnily enough. It's more personal in some ways, and because I've had a long career, like 20 years in law and politics. That comes with some expectation, and I'm just starting in the visual arts. I've been a performance artist for a long time, but just starting in the visual arts, so it feels very new. But that's what's so exciting. It's good to do new things, and it's good to do things that scare you just a little.
She says her visual artwork tackles issues Indigenous people have been dealing with across the globe for years and putting it into a future context.
If anybody is competent to navigate space, to consider the realities of first contact, to understand alien invasion, it is those who have suffered from colonisation, who were stolen from their homelands and transported across time and space to other places, who've been the victims of that first contact.
Ture's work is currently on display at the As Gallery in Dunedin's Stewart Street. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The Waitaki Community Hospital Action Group has continued its calls for the Chief Executive and the Board Chairman of Waitaki District Health Services to stand down. The concern has arisen over the company's handling of its controversial proposal for change document, with the group holding a protest march recently to show their discontent.
What do we want? Safe staffing. When do we want it? Now.
Rallying against the current leadership of Waitaki District Health Services, the Waitaki Community Hospital Action Group, holding a protest march on Saturday, concerned at Oamaru Hospital's current financial position, as well as staff working conditions and patient safety.
We're concerned about the people that are sitting in our leadership positions, particularly our CEO. We're concerned about the board. This is happening on their watch. They're not communicating appropriately to their staff or to the community, and we have lost faith in them.
Last Monday, Waitaki District Health Services announced decisions made after consultation as part of its proposed staff restructuring and layout change at the hospital.
We knew that through the proposal that was put to the community and to the staff in February, that there'd been significant numbers of people leaving the organisation as a result of that.
About 150 people took part in the rally from the Oamaru Harbour to Otago Park, many with placards demanding Chief Executive Ruth Kibble and Board Chairman Chris Swan resign. Ballantyne says the group isn't opposed to changes laid out in the decisions on the proposal, rather the way it's been handled and communicated.
We still have a rebuttal to that decision that we intend to make. We've been invited to make that by the Southern DHB Commissioner, and we will definitely do that because we feel that there are significant problems in that decision document.
She says the hospital should be marketing itself as the epitome of rural healthcare. In Oamaru, the South Today.
What do we want? Safe staffing.
Otago University's Mobile Education Unit took the chance to chat with interested parties at last week's Electric Vehicle Roadshow in Dunedin. The Aquavan has been part of the New Zealand Marine Studies Centre in Dunedin for just over a year, with researchers keen to tell people why cutting down on carbon emissions is helpful for marine life.
This is the Aquavan, which is the University of Otago's basically mobile education unit. So basically the reason we're here at the EV Expo today, it's about ocean acidification. So basically carbon dioxide emissions from things like vehicles, they increase the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and in turn that mixes at the surface of the ocean, it mixes into the sea. And what that does is that makes the ocean a tiny bit more acidic. And so the animals we have today are basically animals with shells that are vulnerable to this acidification, because it makes it harder for them to grow their shells because it's more acidic, and it can damage them. So those are coccolithophores, which are little planktonic organisms, and much like all the animals we have in here, they make a shell out of calcium carbonate. And so calcium carbonate is it basically dissolves in more acidic water, and so that's why these animals really struggle with increased ocean acidification. So anything to cut down on your carbon emissions, basically. One of those things might be an EV, seeing as we're here at a EV Expo today. Driving cars less, walking, biking, just anything to reduce your carbon emissions into the atmosphere.
After the break on this edition of Southern News Week, many motoring enthusiasts travelled from far and wide to put the pedal to the metal in South Otago. And balls were flying in Queenstown during a hurling match between locals and a team from Christchurch. Welcome back. The record for the fastest quarter-mile drag sprint remains intact for another year at the Lawrence quarter-mile drags. Despite high hopes the 12-year-old course record would be broken on the town's Weatherston Straight, it remained intact after a recent competition.
Lawrence man Dave Bridie among the contenders vying to beat a record set more than a decade ago. Lawrence friends Chook Ryder and Roger Binnimer clocked a 9.4 second run at the Lawrence quarter mile drags back in 2007. Word on Weatherston's Straight on Saturday was that time may be under threat.
Yeah, apparently I get a bit of pressure put on me at times. I've got to win the burnout, so yeah.
Good idea.
Have a wee go at that, no doubt.
Driving an eardrum battering Holden Ute enlivened with a blown 406 Chevy engine, Bridie certainly thrilled the crowds at the start line.
Yeah, we put a supercharger on it this year, so it's yeah, hopefully it'll go a lot better if I can hold it on the track.
More than 60 contestants lined up, which organisers say is higher than average. Slightly slippery road conditions mid-track left some drivers grasping for traction as they reached top speeds. But despite near-perfect conditions, the closest challenge Bridie could muster was a 12.85 second run, although he's still happy with his vehicle.
Cool. And what sort of power are you hoping to get out of it?
Well, we haven't dynoed it yet, so I don't really know what it is. It's probably, I don't know what it'll be. I don't know.
No.
It's up there.
All proceeds from the event are set to be given to support good local causes. In Balclutha, the South Today.
Southland has welcomed a new downhill cycle track. The pump track at Matoda aims to give riders the challenge of cycling without pedalling. It's all part of a new redevelopment in the Southland township, aiming to attract more visitors.
Testing out Southland's latest attraction. The new pump track at Tallock Park in Matoda was officially opened over the weekend, much to the delight of all involved.
This facility we've got here now is one of the best in the South Island, if not the best in the South Island. And I'm sure that there will be a lot of people attracted to Matara because of this.
A pump track is a circuit of rolling contours, banks and features designed to be ridden completely by riders pumping. That means creating momentum by up and down body movements instead of pedalling or pushing. All involved in the project say it's been a labour of love.
This is your park. Look after it, but more importantly, look after each other and have a lot of fun.
The redevelopment of Tallock Park comes after the local council decided to close the Matoda pool due to falling patronage and escalating costs. And Hicks says the pump track is just the beginning.
But to everybody that's put time and effort in over the last 3, 4, 5 years, it has been a bit of a marathon, and the marathon is not finished because this really is the beginning of something special for the whole Tallock Park area.
Sports courts and a water park are also set to be built in Tallock Park in the coming months. In Matoda, the South Today.
After a narrow defeat last year, Queenstown's Band of Brothers staged an epic comeback over Christchurch to win their South Island Hurling Derby recently. Hundreds of people turned out to Queenstown's recreation ground to watch the battle, a rematch of last year's first ever hurling game in the resort.
It's not something you're likely to see too much around the sports grounds of New Zealand, but hurling was very much to the fore in Queenstown over the weekend when the locals hosted a team from Christchurch.
All the boys fly down, they come here just for this game, so we're hoping to make it like a kind of state of origin thing. We haven't got a trophy just yet, but we're going to get a trophy called the Lindy's Pass.
The traditional Gaelic game, which has similarities to hockey, is played by teams of 15 who use wooden axe-shaped sticks or hurleys to hit the ball.
They classify hurling as the oldest and the fastest field sport in the world. So it is. So I grew up playing it as a young kid. Also my parents, they all played it, grandparents all played it, so it's like a kind of a history thing behind it. They say it's like a 3,000-year-old sport, but I don't know if that's true.
Hundreds of people turned out to Queenstown's recreation ground to watch the battle, a rematch of last year's first ever hurling game in the resort. Organisers hoping the locals are starting to get an appreciation of the rules.
But yeah, you have to pick the ball off the ground with a stick. You can catch the ball anywhere. You can swing if you put your stick behind your hand to guard your hand because you're allowed to swing. We will have to wear helmets, but that just came in like 15 years ago. We didn't have to wear helmets before.
As well as giving the winners bragging rights, the match also served as a fundraiser.
This year is Heart Kids and Harry's Heroes. So everybody's behind it all. Like Heart Kids, they're all down do buckets. We've got brochures to tell whereabouts who are from in Ireland and who's playing in the day.
And after a strong first half, the Queenstowners let the Cantabrians back into the match before a late spree of points got them home. In Queenstown, the South today.
Members of the Black Ferns rugby team were at St Kevin's College in Oamaru this week to take a training session for female pupils in the Waitaki region, and they brought along a special trophy to help inspire the next generation.
Learning from the best in the business, budding young North Otago female rugby players getting put through their paces by members of the World Cup winning Black Ferns.
It's really neat to see, I guess, the energy and the fact that they love playing rugby, and so it's cool that we could take the World Cup and that we can get out in the community as well and help them.
The day was organised by Highlanders Region Women's Rugby Development Manager Warren Kearney in conjunction with North Otago Rugby. Kearney says the number of female rugby players is on the rise in the region.
It's still early doors for this year, obviously the winter coming, but talking to the schools and the numbers are really encouraging. So until term 2 starts, we'll get a better gauge of the final numbers, but things are looking pretty good so far down here.
Not only are numbers on the rise, so is the level of competition, helped in no small part by some of the initiatives being carried out by the North Otago Union.
So hopefully this year we're going to do a Friday night and just have girls only, so trying to get them just playing against each other from 7 to 13-year-olds kind of thing, offering another option, and they can still play with the boys then as well.
The roadshow continues around the south throughout the school holidays. In Oamaru, the South today.
That's all for this edition of Southern News Week. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.